Imagine waking up to a war. Before you even finish your morning tea, it's over. Sounds impossible, right? But in 1896, the world witnessed the shortest war in human history, lasting just 38 minutes. Yes, you heard that right. 38 minutes. A battle so short, yet so destructive, that it reshaped the fate of an entire nation. But don't let its short duration fool you. Behind this war was a tale of power, betrayal, colonial dominance, and an empire that was willing to crush its enemies in the blink of an eye. What caused it? Who were the key players? And how did it end so fast? Buckle up, because today we're diving deep into the Anglo-Zanzibar War, the war that barely lasted longer than a coffee break. To understand why this war even happened, we need to go back to the late 19th century. When the British Empire was at its peak, Britain had colonies and protectorates spread across the world, from India to Africa, from the Caribbean to the Far East. But one small island off the coast of modern-day Tanzania was about to make history. Zanzibar wasn't just any island. It was a powerful trading hub, rich with spices, ivory, and an unfortunate but profitable slave trade. For centuries, it had been ruled by the sultans of Oman, who controlled the trade routes in the region. But as European powers, particularly Britain and Germany, expanded their influence in Africa, Zanzibar became a battleground for colonial control. By the late 1800s, Britain had established a protectorate over Zanzibar, meaning that while the Sultan remained the ruler in name, the British had the final say in all major decisions. They controlled trade, political policies, and most importantly, who sat on the throne. Fast forward to August 25, 1896. Sultan Hamad bin Thuwaini, the British-approved ruler of Zanzibar, dies suddenly in his palace. Some say it was natural causes, but others suspect he may have been poisoned. And who had the most to gain from his death? His ambitious cousin Khalid bin Bargash. The moment Hamad died, Khalid rushed to the palace, gathered his supporters, and declared himself the new sultan without British approval. He ignored British officials, had himself crowned, and ordered his guards to fortify the palace. In his mind, he was now the absolute ruler of Zanzibar. But there was one problem. The British did not recognize him. They had their own candidate in mind, Hamoud bin Mohammed, a sultan who would follow their rules without question. The British were furious. This wasn't just about who would rule Zanzibar. It was about power and control. If they allowed Khalid to take the throne without their approval, it would send a message that Britain's word meant nothing. They took action. The British consul in Zanzibar, Basil Cave, immediately sent a warning to Khalid: step down and leave the palace peacefully or face war. Khalid, however, refused. He barricaded himself inside the palace, surrounded by 2,800 soldiers, a mix of palace guards, mercenaries, and a handful of artillery pieces. He also had one royal yacht armed with a few cannons stationed in the harbor. Khalid believed he could fight off the British. He was wrong. On the other side, the British had 3 warships already anchored in the harbor: HMS Thrush, Miss Sparrow, and the flagship HMS St. George. These were modern vessels, equipped with heavy artillery and Maxim machine guns, the deadliest automatic weapons of the time. In addition, the British had 150 highly trained soldiers, along with 900 Zanzibari loyalist local troops who opposed Khalid's rule. The British gave one final warning: surrender by 9 a.m. on August 27th or we will attack. Khalid still refused. The first cannonballs smashed into the palace, shattering walls and sending debris flying. Within minutes, the entire wooden structure was engulfed in flames. Khalid's forces tried to fight back, firing rifles and small cannons, but their weapons were no match for the British firepower. At the same time, the British warships targeted Zanzibar's navy, which consisted of just one small yacht. It was sunk within minutes. The bombardment was relentless. By 9:40 a.m., just 38 minutes after it began, the war was over. Khalid's forces had either fled, been killed, or surrendered. The palace was completely destroyed, and Khalid himself, he had disappeared. As soon as the palace began to collapse, Khalid escaped through a back door and ran to the German consulate, seeking asylum. The British demanded that the Germans hand him over, but Germany refused. Instead, they smuggled him out of Zanzibar, and he eventually fled to German East Africa, where he lived in exile for years. With Khalid gone, the British quickly installed their preferred sultan, Hamoud bin Mohammed, who immediately became a puppet ruler under British control. Zanzibar was now completely under British influence, and the war, though short, had long-term consequences for the region. The casualty count? 500 Zanzibaris killed or wounded. The British? 1 minor injury. So what can we learn from this war? Even though it lasted just 38 minutes, it was a powerful display of British dominance during the age of colonialism. It showed how small nations had little chance against the world's superpowers. But more than that, this war remains a historical curiosity and example of how sometimes wars can be decided not by numbers, but by firepower and political influence. And that, my friends, is the story of the Anglo-Zanzibar War, the shortest war in history. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible stories from history.